Well, here we are, YouTube. You finally convinced me. I'm finally making a video on Japanese learning. Why am I making this? There's a billion videos out there already on YouTube of English people telling you how to learn a language, English people telling you how to learn Japanese. I don't believe that you will learn Japanese better by watching more videos about that. I believe that the only way to learn a language is to actually go out there and spend time consuming the language, which means interacting with the language itself rather than with people who aren't even native speakers telling you how to learn the language. This said, I believe that I can help you get more efficient at learning the language, which is not the same as telling you how to learn. Everybody has different preferences or different sets of beliefs on what they think learning a language means. I have my own set of convictions. I do believe that one way might be better than the other, but I don't think it's fair to tell you exactly what you should be doing, but rather how your mentality should be. I see this a lot in language learning communities, especially not the Japanese ones, but other languages, where there's like this idea of language learning as a way to gather points, especially for people who use like Duolingo or similar apps. They kind of want to feel like they are being rewarded for spending time learning the language without actually learning the language. The language learning part is like a side effect of the fact that they're collecting points, like gold coins on a streak, to show that they are language learners. So if you are that kind of person, maybe this video can help you change your mindset a bit. If you're not, then I recommend you try to stay away from that mentality. It can be very tricky because it can feel very rewarding to join a group of people and showing your progress and discussing statistics, discussing how many points you get, how many words you know, how many like certifications you have, all that kind of stuff. That stuff can be interesting, but it's not language learning. And I really, really want you to understand this. Languages are a tool to achieve a goal. Your goal could be anything. Could be you want to watch this anime that is airing and has been translated yet or something. Or you want to read a book in the original language. You have an interest in music and you want to talk to a band, like a Japanese band or something, and you want to communicate with them. You want to move to Japan because you think it's a great country and you want to live there. You are a politician and need to communicate like with the embassy or some other bullshit like that. Like all those are means to an end, right? You want to get a goal, a practical goal, something you want to achieve that is beyond just knowing Japanese. Knowing Japanese is what gets you there. It's not the whole thing. Because it doesn't matter. Once you're fluent in Japanese, what are you going to do about it? My native language is not English, but I'm talking to you in English. And the moment I achieved my goal of being fluent in English, I realized, what am I going to do with English? Like, now I know English. There's like billions of people out there who know English. What's the point? Like, the point is that you do something with it. Could be passive, could be consuming content. You're reading a book, you're reading a manga, you're playing a game. Could be active, you're talking to people, you have like a partner or somebody who speaks a different language and you want to communicate with them, with their family. Those are very reasonable and very positive goals to have, but it's not language learning. And I want you to remember this. Now, if you want to be successful at learning Japanese, and with Japanese being a very hard language compared to most other languages out there, it's one of the hardest languages for, especially for Westerners or especially English speakers. Japanese is so far removed from English that you will find yourself completely lost in a lot of different, subtle different ways, both in grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, and even just the cultural aspect of the language is so different that you really need to dedicate all your understanding, your time and effort into getting something practical out of the language. Okay? There's two mistakes that I see people do when learning Japanese. Two main mistakes. The mentality is kind of like focusing on the wrong thing. The first one is focusing on abstract goals. And I think this might be a bit opinionated topic, but when I ask people, what do you want to do with Japanese? And what do you want to obtain? And I get the answer, oh, I like the culture, or I want to talk to people. That itself is not a bad dream to have, but it is a bad goal. Because goals need to be actionable. They need to be practical, they need to be measurable. If your goal is, I want to talk to Japanese people, then you don't need Japanese. I'm sorry to say this, but we live in a world where if all you want to do is actually talk to people, you can use translators. You can talk to people who know English. There's a lot of Japanese people who already know English to a point where they can communicate with you. Knowing Japanese is not a requirement for the goal you want to achieve. At the same time, if you think that you like the culture or you like the country Especially this comes from people who have never been to Japan before, surprisingly. I understand that you like anime, you like video games. I do it too. I'm not disparaging you for that. I understand that you like the culture, the media, the stuff that you've been fed through the internet, but I think you need a bit more than that. Even if you want to travel to Japan, you don't need Japanese to travel to Japan. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying that you will not be lost if you're in Japan without Japanese. It's not that hard. So if those are the things pushing you towards learning Japanese, you will reach a point where you will realize this is too hard for me. Why am I doing this? I don't care about Japanese. I want to go talk to people. I want to go to Japan. And once you get to the point, the motivation will end. You will burn out. You will realize that you cannot sustain your studies and you will not be successful. You need to channel your interest into something practical. You need to get some practical objective. And for me, I cannot tell you exactly all the objectives you will need because it's something that comes from you. But for me, personally, it was I wanna read manga in Japanese. I wanna read books in Japanese. I wanna play video games, especially video games in Japanese, right? So and not just as an abstract goal, like I wanna read books. I wanna read this book. I started with this Spice and Wolf book series. I said I wanna read this light novel, and I will read this. And that was my goal. As a beginner, you will not get to reach that goal. It's really hard. But if you work little by little with the idea that I will read that book, you can measure your progress by saying, have I read that book? Yes or no? And it took me 3 years of studying, but I did it. I read my first novel of Spice and Wolf. It was my third book when I started learning Japanese. It took me 3 years, but I got there. And the moment I put down the book, I didn't understand most of it, I would say. But I did it. I read it and I said, I reached my goal. I can see progress. I've done this. Now, let's find some other goals. And so instead of saying one book, I will say, I want to read 10 books. I want to read 10 books this year. I want to read one book a month. Or I want to read one chapter of a manga. Like if you're a beginner, you can say, okay, I want to read one page. I want to read one page of a manga completely in Japanese without consulting any translator or without looking at the translations of the page. Start small. You can say one page. I want to read one page. You read one page, you're like, wow, I did it. I read my first page in Japanese. I did something useful. Now let's read 2 of them. Let's read 3. Let's read a chapter. Let's read one volume. These are things that can get you further. And some people like certifications like the JLPT, and those can be a measure of progress, but are they really the progress you want to get? Are they really the thing that make you proud of saying, I've learned Japanese? Once you reach like N1 or like the highest level of the JLPT, what are you going to do with it? Is your interest in just taking the certification? If that's the case, that's great. Or if you need it for your job or your niche cases where you might actually need the certification, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but I'm saying you should really be aware of whether that is your goal or not for Japanese. Only you know this. I cannot tell you what to do. I can only show you the door and you have to walk it, right? And this was the first of the 2 issues that a lot of beginners have. The second issue is temper your expectations. I meet too many people who actively struggle learning the language because they feel like they're not adequate enough compared to others, or even compared to their expectations. So you see people say, I got fluent in 3 months, I got N1 in 10 months, I passed the highest certification in a year, or some other bullshit like that. And on the one hand, I would say, okay, good for you. It doesn't affect me. But on the other hand, you really need to understand that a lot of people lie. A lot of people start from very different starting points. They have different backgrounds, different abilities. Even intuitively, some people are better than others, are more natural at learning languages. This does not mean that you will not learn the language or like you're not able to learn the language. Anybody can learn the language. Humans are built, like our brain is actually built to communicate socially with other humans in a language. Even if you don't understand how it works, even if you don't study, if you have enough will and a determination to communicate, both passively and actively, you will learn the language. The problem is when your expectation is wrong. If you go a week, like you spend a week studying Japanese, and then you go, I still cannot build a sentence, or I try to talk to my friend and I cannot say a word. And it's like, well, yeah, of course, like you spend a week. A week is nothing. And you're like, okay, I've been studying for a year, and I still don't know how to say I like cats. And it's like, well, okay, who cares? How long do you actually study for a year? Because if you spend 10 hours a day a year, that's a long time. If you spend 5 minutes a day doing Duolingo exercises a year, that's not a lot. So learning a language is a direct consequence of how much time you spend with the language. And I want you to understand this. And different languages have different requirements. Different people have different variations in how they are more or less receptive to the language. But in general, I would say that with Japanese, which is a very hard language, it took me maybe 5,000 hours of learning in some way. It could be input, output, reading, studying, whatever. 5,000 hours about like 3-4 years to actually feel comfortable, not even fluent, comfortable in the language. And even fluency has different definitions between different people, so I'm not trying to define what it means to be fluent, but it's something you have to feel for yourself, right? Right now I'm 8 years into learning. I would say I have maybe 9,000 hours, I'm not sure. Overall, I would say nowadays I average about 4 hours a day, every day, doing stuff in Japanese that is actively focused, which means consumption or talking to people or watching content, playing content, reading content, all this stuff, 4 hours a day on average for every year. It's like about like 1,500 hours over 80 years. And I feel good at my level of the language, but I don't feel fluent yet. I want you to understand this. Some people are better, some people are worse. It doesn't matter. You can only play with whatever cards you're dealt. So your expectations are going to be holding you back. If you set your expectations to be too tight, you are going to fail. And I cannot stress this enough. And this is something that I feel bad every time I meet a learner who struggles with this, because it's a mentality shift that you need to make yourself. Your expectations are holding you back. You need to understand that it requires time. It doesn't have to be effort, it doesn't have to be painful, it doesn't have to be a struggle where you actually study and you get headache and you feel like you cannot do it. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be fun, it can be pleasant, it can be enjoyable content, but you need time. If your expectation is to be fluent and capable in Japanese in a few months because you have to move to Japan, you have to study for an exam, your mom is making you take a course, it's not gonna work. I'm being 100% clear with this. You might get better, you might learn something, but it's not going to be to any degree of proficiency. So, to summarize, you need concrete and actionable goals and good expectations. You need to have expectations that don't hold you back, and as long as every day you have the motivation to actually enjoy Japanese in any way, could be talking to people, could be reading books, could be playing games, as long as you do something in Japanese every single day because you want to do it, you will learn Japanese. This said, I do have a guide, I'll be linking down below, on what I did personally to learn Japanese. I will be sharing it with you. You can go look it up. And there's a lot of other guides somewhere out there, and on my website I also have those links. So there's a lot of resources out there. Find yourself some time to learn the fundamentals of what you need, and then please, I beg, I know this is going against my own interest as a YouTube channel, but stop watching English content about language learning. You will not learn Japanese by watching YouTubers telling you how to learn Japanese. Let this be the only video you watch. Promise me. And next time, I will not see you here again because you will be consuming Japanese content, not English content. If you can do that, you will learn Japanese. All right. Peace.